John Noyes, welcome to the Wilderness Survival Podcast. It's always good to have you here at Joshua, and I think this is your third year. Speaking of Joshua now.
Yeah.
Man, tell me, how did you get involved?
You keep having me back. It's crazy. Well, I know Jen.
Yes.
Really well, Jen Smith,
Mm-hmm.
and she invited me, and it's actually a privilege to be up here. I feel like it fits really, really well. I love what you guys are doing. It's a good partnership.
Yeah.
You know, during the gap year, having this program for students, 18 to what you'd say 24. Yeah. That's really the age group that I love to connect with. I think they're at the age where they're in a stage of their life where they're starting to take their Christian convictions seriously,
Mm-hmm.
and really wanting to dive deep and not stay kind of surfacey and figure out what the next couple of years, or maybe the next, 10, 20, 30 years looks like for them.
Yeah.
So, so I got involved 3 years ago, and now I always hope and pray that you invite me back.
Well, we love having you. I think having you here at Joshua is fun, especially, and we always bring you at a very specific time. I mean, we go to LA, we do street evangelism, we have worldview conversations, and I think you are a huge part of getting students prepped and ready for that. Even last night, hearing you talk as an atheist, putting your hat on and going like, when this hat's on, I'm an atheist.
Yeah.
When it's off, I'm not. And I mean, probably an hour and a half of just answering questions and just going.
Smashing.
It was awesome. And I think it makes the students better. And so one of the things that I love about having you is I really think that the students learn so much about why do I believe what I believe? I think that's always the takeaway when John Noyes comes is why do I believe what I believe?
Yeah.
And how do I defend what I believe when we go to LA or when we go to the next thing? But I was telling the students the other night, you're kind of one of the only speakers I didn't know before coming.
Yeah,
and Jen was like, I got a guy.
Yeah.
I got a guy. And maybe I was being a punk and I was like, I don't know. And then you came the first year and was like, oh, yeah. This guy,
well, I appreciate
this guy's
that,
awesome.
man.
So it's fun having you put your kind of your stamp on what we get to do.
I have a ball, man. Last night's a good example of that. It's just fun being up here. They're going through a lot. These students, they're getting a lot of great teaching, a lot of great material. I mean, you're bringing up the best of the best to help train them.
Mm-hmm.
And what I try to do is when I'm coming in, just be practical. And that's where the atheist role play comes in.
Yeah.
They get an opportunity to interact with an atheist for a little bit and try to bring up objections and argue with me. And it's so much fun.
A previous atheist, not an atheist anymore.
Yeah. Not an atheist anymore. Like when I put the hat on, I'm an atheist.
Yes.
But it's a great opportunity to, diagnose things that are needed. Until you're tested, you don't really know what's gonna, how you're gonna respond in certain circumstances or what knowledge. Oftentimes as Christians, anybody, it's not just Christians, we think we have this knowledge base and we can defend it, but you don't really know that until you're tested.
Yeah.
And that's what the atheist kind of experience does. It tests where the students are at, and adults do. I do it all over the country.
Yeah.
So
And I like when you do it because one of the things that can happen, and I, even in the middle of it, I can find myself going like, hold on. What did he just say?
Yeah.
Because what happens is you kind of get spooked. You get a little freaked out because you're throwing stuff out going like, well, why would I trust the Bible? Why would I trust this? And I think so often we just get into these ruts of going like, no, I do trust this. And that's great. But how do I defend it?
Yeah. Why do you trust it?
Mm-hmm.
Do you trust it because your parents told you to trust it, or a teacher, or somebody like me or you?
Mm-hmm.
I think it's important we need to have a personal understanding. Like we need to engage with these things and make it our own. And that's another thing that this is a sweet spot with the students. Like here, what Joshua Institute gives the students an opportunity to do is wrestle with that. Sometimes I would imagine oftentimes you get kids that are up here that are Christians, they're borrowing from their parents' faith.
Yeah.
And at a certain time they need to make the faith their own. They need to own their worldview. And that's what it's about, because you can believe what you want to believe, but until you have evidence and can back that up, all it is a story.
But I think that's something that we see year in and year out.
Yeah.
I mean, we see students who come up who go, I want to serve the Lord. I want to follow him. I want to be involved with him. And then, a few weeks in, they start going like, but I don't know why I believe that. Or why do I believe this? Or how do I defend this? And my favorite thing that happens in Joshua is a student that leaves the program and goes, I know how I'm going to live now. That's why we say 9 months for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
Right? It's like, this is the training that's going to go for the rest of your life. But sometimes that is really going to take some hard work. It's going to take some hard conversation.
Testing,
Testing. It's why we go on the trips that we go on. It's why we talk to the people we talk to, bring up the people we bring up. And so, I mean, for me personally, I don't know if I've told you this. I became a believer in Joshua. I didn't know that actually. In Joshua. And what's the date today?
February 10th would be your...
Today is the 11th. It was the 12th. So tomorrow's
your birthday.
Was literally the day that I gave my life to the Lord as a Joshua student 20 years ago.
That's crazy.
It's crazy. Didn't even think about that.
Now you're here.
And now I'm here. But I think Joshua forces you to go, hey, what do I believe in, and how do I share that? So I think having you come up is a really big part of that. But you cover some of the other stuff. And maybe one of the things that I haven't talked about is, who are you? How are you involved? How are you involved? What do you do? I'm just like, you come here and like it's awesome, but yeah, why do you come here?
Yeah, I am a Christian apologist, writer for Stand to Reason, and which is an organization that trains Christians to think more deeply about their Christian convictions, and then with the hopes of bringing those out into their spheres of influence. Not just in the church, but get outside your world and make a defense for the hope that we have, right? Yeah. And so I have my dream job. I love what I do. I get to travel around the world and do this. I get to teach students, but adults, and on any number of different topics. While I'm here, we'll be talking. Well, we did the atheist role play tonight. I'm going to do some basic Christian apologetics. Evidence for why the Christian worldview is true through the creation. Kalam cosmological argument, even though I don't use that term tonight. It's just where'd all the stuff come from? The existence of morals, the moral depth to the world around us, the existence of the soul, these things I speak on. Well, we're going to do a tactics session on how to share our faith, how to engage in spiritual conversations, just conversations that matter in a way that's kind of, that you take the pressure off of yourself, that's non-defensive. I speak on suicide a lot, which I don't know if we're going to do here. I don't know if this group, I don't know if that's a topic that we need to cover here or we have time for. Yeah. But the historical reliability of the Gospels in particular is another one that I'm thinking maybe we're going to cover this week. Yeah. Which is going to be fun.
Is there a topic that you find kind of as you travel all over the country that is just coming up more and more and more that you're speaking more on?
Oh, yeah.
That's most requested?
That's suicide.
Suicide.
100%. Yeah. I'd say I haven't done the things for all last year yet, but the year before, 30% of the time that I was speaking, I was speaking on suicide, which is really interesting because I didn't get into like the Christian apologetics world to speak on suicide. Yeah. It wasn't on my radar. It's not something I struggle with. It kind of just fell in my lap 6 years ago, and it's just kind of taken on a life of its own. So that's probably, I know that's the number one topic right now.
That's great. And do you feel like you've gotten just more of a burden for people who are dealing with this, or what does it look like to like go to these places and go, hey, we're going to talk about suicide? That's a heavy thing.
It is a heavy thing. What I'm finding is, one, nobody's talking about it. Yeah. Which is a huge problem. That's actually probably the majority of the problem. Yeah. We're just not talking about it. And why is that? Like, why can't we have an honest conversation? I mean, I think I know why. There's shame and guilt. And in that way, it's like kind of like the abortion discussion, 30 years ago, nobody wanted to touch it. Yeah. So we put it off into the kind of the corners. Yeah. But nothing good happens in the dark corners. Yep. So I just want to take the issue out and have a conversation. Certainly a burden. But it is also a reward. I get to meet people kind of where they're at, so to speak, and I see a mess happening in front of me. But then as I come, a lot of these places like here, right, I get to come back year in and year out. I'll leave here probably this week with a couple email addresses from students, and I'll keep in touch with them. I do these reality apologetics conferences for students through Stand to Reason. And they're huge, right? So we were just in Minneapolis with 4,000 students. Crazy. And I get to go to those cities year in, year out, and I get to see people coming back to the talk and saying, oh, this really helped me. So there's a reward there. So you get to help people. But the need, I mean, there's a huge need.
Yeah.
Christians in general aren't talking about mental health, never mind suicide.
Yeah.
And when you just open the can and throw it out there, it's pretty amazing what happens.
Yeah.
It comes out of the woodwork.
Yeah.
I was just in a high school in Bismarck, North Dakota.
Yeah.
And I spoke on suicide my last day there. And the people that were there, I think they felt like, we don't really need to do this. Well, what came out was incredible. I actually got to lead 2 of the students to the Lord.
No way.
There.
When was this?
2-3 weeks ago.
Crazy.
You know, I had some 2 young men come up to me after the talk in tears, and not because I wrestled with suicide, but because during the context of my talk, I just explained the gospel.
Yeah.
I put it out there because I combat legalism and stuff, and they came forward and said, "I've never heard the gospel like that. Like I've always thought I had to work towards God. I didn't understand that God loves me. Even in my sin, God loves me."
Yeah.
And like, I think I got saved today.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh my gosh, that's so amazing. Like, let's pray, you know?
Yeah, that's awesome.
So it's so cool. Like what we get to do is so cool, you know, and we only get a glimpse of what's happening underneath. There's a whole thing underneath the surface that's happening.
Yeah. You mentioned something earlier. Nobody's talking about it. I feel like there's so many of those different topics where, you know, we kind of hit the surface level and it's just kind of off in the dark corners. And one of the things that Jen and I get to say a lot to Josh's students is run away from anything that makes you want to hide. Anything that you want to anything you want to put in the dark, right? Run away from those things or drag them out. And I think, you know, talking about suicide or talking about really a lot of the things that you get to talk about, you know, even the abortion topic that is maybe a lot easier not easier, but is talked about more so now. Man, what does it look like if we can be the people who are talking with 18 to 24-year-olds and going like, no, we're actually going to talk about this.
Yeah.
We're going to talk about this stuff.
Yeah.
And we're going to pull it out. We're going to wrestle through it. And that's one of the things with Josh, and I know you've been to other gap year programs that sure do the same thing, is if you can't talk about it here, where are you going to talk about it?
That's right.
Where are you going to talk about it?
Yeah. And here you have the time too. It's not like I love the reality conferences, but it's 2 days.
Yeah.
Here you have 9 months. So you actually have the opportunity to dig in deep and then offer the healing that needs to happen. And the issues are there. You know what I mean? Like they're there. So why not talk about them? I mean,
exactly.
You can put your head in the sand as long as you want, but that does absolutely nothing for anybody anywhere. So, and that's just my personality too, is kind of run towards the explosion.
And when you say like the issues are there and the time is there, that's kind of the reason why a program like Joshua is 9 months long, you know, because a student can come to Joshua, and I did this for years, or not years, for months in Joshua. You can come and you can kind of fake it, right?
Yeah.
You can hide and you can put the facades up, the masks, and you can kind of go like, man, I'm just going to pretend that I'm really great. And then there comes to this point where you're like, I'm not really great. I don't have all the answers. And the older I get, I now, it rings true. I don't have all the answers. I did when I was 19. I did. Yeah. And I don't have them anymore.
Isn't that funny how that works?
Dude, it's really funny. Actually.
It's funny.
It hurts.
It's ironic. It does hurt. But you think you have all the answers. You have it figured out. And then, I mean, and then what's the saying? The more you learn, the more you find out that you have to learn or whatever that you don't know.
The more you learn, the more, or the less you know, or I don't know, something like that. But yeah, I'm feeling that. But I think that's what happens. You know, when somebody comes to Joshua, they're entrenched and they're going like, hey, I'm gonna show that I've got it all together.
Yeah.
And typically around this time in Joshua, people start coming up and kind of right after Christmas and start going like, hey, I'm really struggling through this, or I'm really working through this, or like, hey, the community has been really difficult, and okay, what do we do with that?
Yeah.
What do we do with that next? And how do we kind of pull that out? And, you know, maybe I'm handling suicidal ideation, or maybe I've had something in my past that like really needs to be talked about.
Well, that's here.
Why you have time.
You know that's here.
Oh, absolutely.
And one of the other benefits, I mean, we're tooting Joshua's horn here, but that's a good thing, is the size of this too, is not only are you spending an extended period of time, but you're doing it with a small group of people. Not so small that it's, I feel like, too insulary, but you're with, I mean, how many people are 60?
We've got 42 this year right now. It's looking like we're going to start with 50 to 54 next year.
So I mean, that's like a perfect size where you get to wrestle through this with a small group of people, and they get individual attention. Like I said it last night to the students. I hope that they're appreciating. I know that most of them aren't really appreciating the stage, because you never do. Like I'm not appreciative of the stage I'm in right now. Right? I'm in a really sweet stage. Totally. I know that, but like they'll never be able to get this time back. No. You know, and this is a time that will never happen again for them. And so that's for anybody considering the program. I would say take some real serious time and seriously consider being able to spend 9 months out of your life digging into, God and theology and all this stuff, but also just personal growth and figuring it out. Yeah. I mean, I wish I knew that this stuff existed. Yeah. When I was I wasn't a Christian, but
you would have made fun of it.
Oh my gosh,
that's fair.
It is
fair. I made fun of it, and I work here.
I know, but it's like it's just so cool that this stuff exists.
Yeah.
You know, and I think that the long game, right? So looking long term, I mean, it's fundamentally transformative. Yeah. In people's lives, like it was in yours.
It was transformative. It was very difficult. It was very challenging.
Yeah.
But, and I think I didn't really take it, I tell the students kind of like what you said all the time. Hey, appreciate what you have. You know, you're here. Yeah. This is going to be over shortly. You're never going to have something like this again. And you kind of always go like, are they? And to some extent, yes, and to some extent, no.
Yeah.
But it has the ability to be life transformative, and that's not just Joshua. There's many programs like Joshua that are going to be able to do the same thing. But it was life transformative for me, and it's been really fun to watch students. It's been fun having you come in, all the speakers who come in, and you play such a vital role. Just for you to know, I really believe that. And I inherited you from Jen.
I'm just happy to be here.
It was a good thing. So. If students who are listening or people who are listening want to know, how can they keep up with you and what you're doing? What are the ways?
I'm terrible. I don't really do any social media.
Me neither.
I don't like. I don't really. I mean, I have a Facebook or whatever. I go on Twitter twice a month. I have no idea. But no, Stand to Reason is so str.org. Str.org. Stand to Reason. And that's how all my content goes out. It's just easy. Somebody does it for me. We have a social media coordinator,
have to
Harmony, and I send her pictures of me speaking, so then she puts it on. I just don't have the social media desire. Speaking on mental health, speaking on suicide, I see a correlation.
Yep.
And I find it very, very difficult for me to get up there and tell you that social media is a cancer, which is what I say, and then all of a sudden, go on Instagram posting pictures of me saying that, it's like, well,
totally.
I just want to be consistent.
Well, it's a funny thing too, is like, I don't really have social media. Joshua has social media, but when students come, and if somebody's made it this far on the podcast, this is just funny for them to hear, but it's like, none of the students have social media. Like all the students, give up social media for 9 months because of all the things we talk about, but then the single way we have to market Joshua is social media.
Social media.
Great.
Well, and that's a good point though. It's not bad. Like I'm not saying it's evil or bad.
Yeah.
There's like I serve on the board of directors for a ministry, Mike Winger's Bible Thinker, huge YouTube presence, and I see lives change through it. So it's not bad, but it's just not me.
Totally.
And I don't have the time.
Yeah.
But I'd rather connect like this, face to face. That's one of the things I really do love about Joshua is that right before this, literally, I'm sitting on the couch out there, I'm talking to students. And that comes at the tail end of an hour and a half question and answer session where we're just throwing stuff around, questions, any question that's on your heart. And then you get an opportunity to do one-on-one or one-on-two time with students. Yeah. And that I'm here for 4 or 5 days. And that's how the every day goes. And it's so much fun. Yeah. And that is so much more impactful for me than having 100,000 views of a video. Yeah. I think. Yeah. I'd rather do that.
Well, I'm with you, John. It's great having you.
It's good
Thanks
to
for
be
being here. To Joshua, and it's always
man.
fun getting some time with you. So.
God's good. God's good.
Thumbs up.